Achievement, a Dungeon Crawler Carl book club podcast.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Ellie. And in this podcast, we are reading, researching, and recapping each book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. This is a spoiler light podcast, so obviously heavy spoilers for the book that we're on, but we'll try not to spoil any future events in the series so you can crawl along with us. And today we're covering part 3 of book 1, chapters 35 through the epilogue. So, Jess, will you tell us what happened previously on Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Yes. Carl and Donut were more than ready for prime time as they were interviewed on Odette's popular talk show. They met some terrible crawlers who tried to kill them in Frank and Maggie Mai, but they also met folks from Meadowlark who restored their faith. When we last saw our heroes, there had just been a big explosion. Hope there weren't any babies in there. All right. And then, Ellie, do you want to get us current on what we read for this week?
Of course. This time on New Achievement, Carl's cutesy tootsies save his ass, and he's rewarded with big boy boxers. He pisses off his agent, but she's nowhere near as pissed off as the rage elemental summoned by Jack pissing off the admins by pissing on the wall. Our duo birth some bombs and trick the elemental into an early exit via the game's rules about the stairs. Mukta replaces Zev and Carl outmaneuvers the Maestro, and we learn just how fucked up Frank Q and Maggie Mai actually are. Carl and the Maestro definitely do not hook up, but Carl does have to put his foot down and pay the daddy tax. Then it's time for us to meet Mongo, go down the stairs, and learn the scoop about Donut's new vicious velociraptor. Well, after that, what's our current crawler count?
It is not good, Els. It's not good. We
Oh,
ended, the last count we had was at the end of chapter 31. We had 1,292,526. Now, as of chapter 44, we have dropped below 1 million for the first time, and we are at 990,303. So we are not doing well for the crawlers. What
ew.
if, yeah, it's trending like the stock market. What are some of our important locations?
Well, the only important or interesting locations that we see this time is the cheap rented trailer that the Maestro's show is filmed on.
I felt so bad for Donut here as a person who gets violently motion sick. The idea of being on open water in something that is the size of a walk-in closet without any kind of buffer, I absolutely would have vomited. That sounds like my nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do like that it's like a little insertion of Carl's existing knowledge and like expertise. Like he can be like, "Oh, this boat isn't as big as the other one." Like, okay. Like he
And
doesn't have
still,
like crazy superpowers from his time in the military, but he knows how big a boat is by feel.
I just think as he's got all that knowledge and the best he can give her for motion sickness is just breathe. Like there's got to be some type of Jedi mind trick that he's got to keep her from yakking all over the place. I if somebody was in my face saying just breathe, I would make sure to vomit on them.
Yeah. I mean, even if he knows that like most of the ways to fix it are, not very real or terribly effective, then like he would at least know to like lie or
Right. Right.
or be like,
Right.
you will be okay. It's okay. Just give it a minute. Do this to
Sit in
distract yourself.
sit in your chair with your right paw up in the air, then put your left paw up in the air, like something. But you know,
Hmm.
that's okay. They made it through, but I felt that scene.
Well, then what about our important characters in this section?
All right. So we have Zev, who we meet for the first time, and she is PR agent to the stars, who also proves that she fucking gets it. She right away comes in and says, "Hey, I'm here to get you gigs, and here's what you can do to kind of increase your star power." But Carl loses it on her, and she says, "Nobody in this room is an idiot. we all are in a terrible position here. We're all part of this inexorable machine. And so we know from her that not everybody is in this delusional world where this thing is okay and that people are willing participants. So that was nice to see, I thought.
Yeah, she's definitely a likable character in what is, if you actually think about it, a reprehensible role. Um, I really like the part where she caught herself saying rent crawlers. Like they
Yes.
want to rent, borrow, hire. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she gets it. She is part of it, but she also mentions, that if she makes one wrong move, her family gets wiped off the, face of the universe. So there's a
Hmm.
lot. Zev is a very often perky but extremely complex character. Okay. And then we have Jack, or at
Oh.
least one very important and consequential body part of Jack's, and that is Jack's dick. Why? Because Jack breaks the rules about peeing on the wall and summons a rage elemental, which is bad, very bad.
Ugh, what a dick.
And what a dick it was, apparently.
Yeah.
Um, our little donut has become a pet parent, or as she would probably say, a mother, because they entered a prize room and were able to pick out a prize pet. And she immediately was drawn towards the so ugly, it's cute velociraptor. Now, we don't know at the beginning that is what he is. He is called a Mongoliensis, but he is now the third of our trio, and they have the a very entertaining task of trying to tame him and get him to bond before the end of the floor. And that definitely results in, more than anything, several bites of Donut's nose. Poor nose. By the end of that, I think it was probably pretty. She used a lot of healing potions and scrolls, I think, just on her nose injuries alone. But at the end of the day, he was bonded. Donut saved his life. He was bonded, and now he is with our troop for good.
Nice. And I really like that as soon as Donut picks Mongo, even though he's not tamed, she has like a psychic bond that we never actually see directly. She's just like immediately like, oh, he's a boy, and this and this and this and this, and we have no indication that this happened, so it's clearly happening like in her UX, in her experience. So it's another instance of the writing letting like the world breathe and live. Like the world goes on even when we're not looking at it. Because we don't know what's going on with anyone any more than Carl does, and we don't even know everything going on with Carl all the time. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a good limiting of the omniscience. It's a good limiting of the omniscience of the narrator. I like it.
I kind of thought of it like in a sitcom where one character speaks a weird language and the other characters can like talk to them somehow, and they will respond back in their strange language, but everybody just seems to understand them, or at least one person does anyway. So that's sort of how I pictured it. But yes, her having the UI in place certainly does make more sense. And I just love how maternal she is. If you think of the first couple of pages of the book where she was, you are my manservant, and, how we go from that donut to this donut is a lot of character growth in one book. So she really has developed a lot. It's kind of funny that our cat has become a crazy dog, Mom. Um,
uh, oh, that's good.
I won't tell her though. Um,
That's
you'll
solid.
okay. So Yolanda is a nurse at the Meadowlark nursing home. So she's part of the old people crew. She's the one who has had the terrible job of killing the Meadowlark residents when they needed to be killed as opposed to leaving them
I think
alive,
that was it that Amani?
no. Okay. Yolanda was a nurse in the Meadowlark crew, and unfortunately, she is the first to die of Crawler that we know. She's the first named character. She has an unfortunate run in with the Rage Elemental after Jack's peeing on the wall. And so we see that even the people that we know and love are in true danger in the book.
Yeah, and it doesn't even it does when she gets killed by the rage elemental, it says that she's like is ripped apart like ribbons or something.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that there's like an enchantment on the rage elemental's claws because they're not just getting like ripped apart, they're getting ribbonified or it's a spaghettification if you're falling into a black hole, but faster and stickier.
Yeah, she is. It wasn't a kind, for such a kind lady. And he makes a point to talk about how kind she was, even to say, if I could do it over again and she could be my mother, she would never leave me. She meets a really gory ending. And I think in books, a
Uh-huh.
lot of times we kind of glorify characters get glorified deaths, or their deaths aren't as ugly and vicious. This was ugly and vicious. This was like Game of Thrones ugly and vicious,
Uh-huh.
which sort of took me aback a little bit. But yeah, it was for such a sweet lady, not a sweet ending.
Yeah, she was such a sweet kid.
She was such a sweet kid. Yep. Then we have Mukta, who is Zev's substitute. And it really shows that Zev truly is one in a million because Mukta acts just like you would expect somebody in her position to act. She cancels their appearance on one show to put them on another show that has a higher fee, but she really put the profit ahead of their well-being and is just a bitch. She really is frustrating to read. She's frustrating to listen to if you're listening to the audiobook, but to me it's just a contrast of how good we have it and our crawlers have it with Zev.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a handful of stuff later on that I want to talk about that shows how unusual Zev is compared to
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the Kuatin. But Mukta is just the worst.
We also found out Kuatin are only like 2 feet tall. So, which is not how I was picturing of the villains of the series, but they're little guys. You could just kick them, but then they would come and kill your entire family. So maybe don't. And we have
Yeah.
yeah. Then we have the Maestro, and he hosts the show that Carl and Donut were put onto instead, that rents the cheap ass trailer. And he is described as a giant space hog with gold chains and a hot pink shirt unbuttoned to his navel. So I kept picturing him like Miami Vice,
Mm.
but in hog form. And the show that he hosts is very much like Jerry Springer for the Andrew Tate Jr. crowd. So if Andrew Tate Jr. has gone galactic, that's who we got. And he ultimately picks a fight with Carl and Donut. And then after the show, a mysterious video appears, a sexy time fanfic video featuring Maestro and Carl in flagrante delicto in some compromising positions. And the video is so good, even Zev wonders if it is real.
The characterization of the Maestro is very much on point, and the part where they stopped to mention that his fingernails were disgusting, I thought was just like just as a femme person, like, oh, I know exactly what we're talking about here. You can't bother to clean your fingernails. Nothing else about you is going to be even like neutral, let alone pleasant.
No, he just sounds detestable at every turn.
And the AI made the snick, right? Like,
Yeah, we don't really get a sense of who made the snick, but the AI having, because it was made very quickly and
mhm.
it was of impeccable quality, which does lead me to think that it was the AI. I suppose we might find out differently, but that's who I thought.
Of anybody who could have done this that we know about, the AI seems the most likely.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that surprised me, if it was the AI, is that there was no foot play at all in the video that was mentioned. Maybe there was, and it just wasn't worth mentioning compared to the rest of the video. But it was all pretty straightforward, hog on man action. It sounds like between Carl and Maestro.
Well,
Uh,
man on hog, but yeah.
Man on hog. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because Carl had the quote unquote upper hand.
It's another one of those like, oh, we can watch people die, but you can't watch them piss. Like, not even Zev could bring herself to be like, did you actually fuck that guy? Like, you just can't say it out loud. It's so risque. We need to use euphemisms like we're on an episode of Seinfeld. Like,
Are we surprised that Carl was a top?
a little bit from what we know about his relationship with Beatrice.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course it was a pretend video, but still interesting to think about. And then Agatha returns to us. Agatha is our friendly neighborhood homeless person who started the fire that got the Meadowlark residents out and down into the dungeon in the first place. But it seems like there might be something else going on with her. Ellie, you want to tell us about the mystery of Agatha?
So Agatha is the reason that Meadowlark is in the dungeon at all, because she set the fire. And then she was in the boss fight with the ball of swine, but she got edited out of the episode. And then Carl took her cart for a second and then gave it all back. But there was Valte Corporation gear in there, like some kind of communication device and like a pulse gun or pulse pistol or something. Which is weird and doesn't make any sense. But the Valte are infiltrators. They're brain worms. So if Valte had a stake in this dungeon happening at all because they're owed a whole bunch of money, one or two of their operatives on the planet doing some disruption or seeking a goal outside anything anybody really knows right now kind of seems likely. I mean, she didn't go through the like the tutorial process, so she's not like registered with the game, and she doesn't have an inventory system, which means the AI is not tracking her inventory. Which I mean, the inventory is like a pocket dimension kind of thing with like portals, and so anything that comes or goes through those portals is going to be logged. And if she's never done that, then she's her stuff has never been logged. And if she's never gone through the tutorial, there's never been like an appraisal or a scan of her as like a being, so they won't catch the fact that there's a Valte worm in her head. And then just that part at the end where he's like, "I got to talk to you about your cart," and she gives him that look of like, drop it right now, drop it." And then the part where he's like, he backpedals and is like, "Oh no, it's your wheel is squeaking. They'll hear you coming." And she's like, "Oh, they know I'm here. They just don't know what to do about me." Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more going on with Agatha, and we're just kind of teased with it. But I'm pretty sure she's being controlled by a Valte worm and here to do
That's
something.
that's interesting because I definitely get the sense that she's here to do something. I mean, obviously, she's got a hidden weapon and she's clearly trying to fly, under the radar and under the watch of the the AI or the admins, but I thought more that she was working with the Valte. Like maybe she's some type of infiltrator that is like sponsored by the Valte because they're not any friends of the Kuatine, and they have a vested interest in the dungeon not going particularly well. So I thought maybe she got some big money donors to come in and wreak havoc somehow. Um, but I
Yeah, that was
didn't.
exactly what I was saying. She's like an agent for the
But
Felton.
I don't think she's a worm.
Oh. Mm. Oh.
So that's the difference. I think she's sponsored. I don't think she's been infiltrated
Hmm.
cranially.
Hmm. Fair.
So we'll find out.
Well, let's move on down to Tarantino Corner for all of our feet fetish fantastic something that ends in F. It's fine. Uh, Chapter 35, we find out that Carl only survives his drunken boss fight because his feet were invulnerable. And that actually makes me wonder if the buff that he keeps on his feet will keep him from like outright dying because he's always going to have like 5 hit points left that are just in his feet. Um, Plus, it's like several times he talks about something just barely missing him and remembering the last time something just barely misses him. Makes me wonder if the AI is playing favorites and screwing with some random dice rolls.
Oh, so his because he can't die because then his feet would die. So he's always going to be living as opposed to just a pair of feet comically running around like hand or thing style.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. I mean, if he gets cut in half or whatever, he'll probably die. But it might be like you know, a little bit of a failsafe there for the AI's favorite pet. Um, Chapter 42, the Maestro gives Carl a pair of boots in his size with a pair of socks. Because he knew it would fuck up Carl's entire build, and it would also fuck up Carl's relationship with the AI that is kind of protecting him. I mean, we can at least infer that it wants to, or and we don't really know if it is, but it feels like it is.
Well, the maestro certainly thinks it is, and it sounds like his audience thinks the AI is because they call out, that he is I forget what they say, but they essentially say that he's being coddled by the AI and being given, easy things. So this is definitely a sentiment that is brewing that he's getting some most favored feats uh, from the AI.
And yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, chapter 45 and 46, uh, quote, I placed my bare right foot upon the small monster. Sorry, Ralph, I said. The dungeon groaned. It fucking groaned. The entire dungeon rumbled as if it was experiencing a small earthquake. Carl made the dungeon come.
The dungeon came. It's so upsetting.
It's
So that's how you make the earth move. I've always heard that.
I mean, uh yeah, no, it's okay, let's move far away. Babe, what were our favorite achievements in this section?
Well, we really tried. We really, really tried to have one favorite achievement, but we could not decide who got this one. So this one was both of our favorite achievements. So I will forego the reading of mine this week. You could take it away.
This was in chapter 47. New achievement! PETA enthusiast. You somehow managed to remove the hostility of an aggravated, non-sapient enemy. That enemy then fought against other enemies to your benefit. The ghost of Steve Irwin smiles down upon you. Reward? I said the ghost of Steve Irwin smiles down upon you. Ah, it's so good. It's so good. Even the AI loves Steve Irwin.
Could you
Um,
not?
we did at least have different favorite quotes. So, what are our favorite? What was your favorite quote?
Mine was in chapter 41. Mana toast. This is toast. It refills your mana. That's it. Nothing more. Fuck you.
Very minor spoiler moving forward, but there's a handful of times a sentence or a description or something from the AI ends in "fuck you,"
Fuck you.
and I love it every time. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I picked chapter 45. We just did this already, but it's a small rodent. Your feet are all nice and shiny. As Miss Beatrice used to say, time to pay the daddy tax. Well, if it makes you feel any better, she was talking about you. You're the daddy, Donut said. No, Donut. That does not make me feel better. That is the opposite of making me feel better.
The daddy tax.
Ugh.
Oh,
And I'll tell you right now, trying to find the exact wording of that quote, I did search for Dungeon Crawler Carl Daddy Tax. Um, Nothing I was looking for came up in that search.
have you messed up your algorithm?
I mean, have we met? How much more messed up can it be? Like,
I just wonder if it's now straight porn.
you. No, lots of stuff about dungeon daddies. I'm
Oh,
like, no,
interesting.
I want a joke about this, this book, not a shirt that says Dungeon Daddy.
We want one specific dungeon daddy. That's all we're interested in. That is such a very, like, everything I find out about Beatrice, it's like, yeah, that tracks. There isn't
Mhm.
anything about her. And, this is actually a criticism that I see about this book series is that she is a two-dimensional, just kind of mean girl or like the bad girlfriend. And I don't know, like, first of all, she's going to be two-dimensional. We haven't met her. We're going based upon somebody's memories and description, but she just went off to, vacation with an ex. Like, of course she's going to be remembered as like the mean girlfriend or the bad girlfriend. She was a bad girlfriend. She was objectively mean. So, I don't know. I do not have a concern about her place in feminist lore. I think we're good with her being a mean girl.
Yeah, she's not great. Let's move into our references and trivia. Jess, what were our references this time?
I not as many as have been. So I think I can do this in one breath. We have Fancy Feast, Elon Musk, Incredible Hulk, World War II, Gossip Girl, Riverdale, Cops, Judge Judy, Space Race, Matchbox Cars, NASCAR, Mythbusters, Pinewood Derby, Dungeons and Dragons, Lego, Jerry Springer, Military Footwear, Wheel of Fortune, Harambe, Paris Hilton. Huh.
Yes,
Yes.
got it in one. Excellent out of you.
Thank you.
Uh, the only thing I had much that cropped up for this for me was Zev talks about how she's been here for at least a couple decades or solars. Uh,
Solars.
and the only thing that her team has watched is Cops and Judge Judy, uh, which makes perfect sense because the Kuatin are authoritarian fascists. So, of course, they like love law enforcement porn. Like, somebody's posted once or twice about how the Cardassians from Star Trek would love Columbo. Because in Deep Space Nine, Garrick tells us that the point of a Cardassian murder mystery isn't figuring out who did it. The person who got arrested is clearly guilty. That's why they got arrested. The point is to find out how and why they did it, which actually lines up perfectly with the structure of Columbo, because at the beginning, we see the person doing the thing, doing the murder. And then the rest of the show is Columbo gradually putting it together and figuring out exactly how and why they committed the murder. But we already know the person's guilty, of course. That's why they're suspect. So it just seems really perfect that the authoritarian bent of the Kuwatiin people would make them gravitate towards authoritarian, you know, propaganda porn.
Mhm. Yes, they will watch the same shows as the worst person you know, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. All right. And we have the rhesus monkey that was mentioned as being the first one in space, and that was Albert the second, actually, a male rhesus macaque monkey, who was the first primate and first mammal to travel to outer space before we started flinging humans up there. He flew from Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico to an altitude of 83 miles aboard a US V 2 sounding rocket on June 14th, 1949. It is believed he survived the ascent, but not the descent.
Uh,
So here's to pour one out for Albert II.
You can tell people you're more resilient than a monkey named Albert.
Yes. All right. Now back to the gross. We've got gratuitous violence. What have you got for us?
We should really just block these in one section. Uh, in chapter 38, we get Yolanda's body disintegrated in a red cloud of ribbon-like flesh, like a knitted sweater that had been unraveled all at once. Which, again, really makes me feel like there's some kind of magic, like, disintegrating effect on the claws of this giant badger thing. Because if it's a giant badger ghost thing with giant claws, you're not gonna like turn into itty bits. You're just gonna get like sliced in half, right? Or like thirds, maybe.
I just keep thinking, do you know how much yarn is in a sweater?
So much yarn.
That is so much. I mean, that's like, that reminds me of like one of those apple peelers, where the skin comes off the whole apple, where you turn the crank. Like, that is a lot of yarn in one continuous piece. That
Uh-huh.
is so gross. So, yeah, that is not like ripped apart like an animal rips you apart. That is almost like, like the reverse of Disney magic. Instead of spooling you together, it spools you apart. Ugh. So that
Ugh.
is disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. Yeah.
And then chapter 39, the recap episode started with a close-up shot of Jack's purple, veined, and uncircumcised dick. Huge on the screen. Wow, Donut said. Yours isn't nearly that big. Or oily looking. And it doesn't have that little hat thing. So,
Why was it oily?
um,
Sweaty?
well, in endocrinology terms, testosterone vastly increases the amount of oil that your body puts out. And I do know
Mm,
that over time, testosterone just never stops growing your nose and ears, and I think scrotum. So maybe that's also like a, pores and sebaceous glands thing just growing over time until you're a gross, oily old man dick. Uh,
got it. Got it.
maybe it was just oily looking, or there was like
I mean, but if
ointment.
if you're oily looking, does it matter if you're truly oily?
No.
Either way, I don't want to put my mouth on it or anything. Like, yuck. Yuck.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to see it on a TV screen. I'm good messing with
No, I think
kids.
I think it's very well gross. Um, yeah, boy, purple.
Yeah, no, no, no.
No,
That's
good riddance. I mean, even if he didn't violate the rules by peeing on the wall, I say shoot him in the head for whipping his dick out with nobody's permission given. I mean, he's on that float with two other people and Donut. Like Yolanda's right there. What are you? If he had a camera, he would be dick picking and just airdropping them everywhere. Like
oh,
good. I
we
think
got
good
the
riddance.
hey, bring that pussy over here. Like we got the setup that he's just awful. Like
Well, Andy was a Bengals fan, which I mean, they
that's all right. He died horribly.
he died horribly. Well, he died from an arrow to the brain, so he died not so
Oh
horribly. But
yeah. Well,
I
that's
guess
still not a great death.
no, it's not great. And anytime you're dying with your dick in your hands and you're by yourself, I mean, that's probably not the way most people would want to go.
Yeah, there's way better ways to die without your pants on.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's move on to talking points. Things we had that we wanted to talk about that maybe didn't fit anywhere else or were just too big. So, Jess, you had something?
Yes, and it has to do with Donut's nose. So, Donut is a flat faced cat. And if you've
Mm-hmm.
ever seen those Persian cats, it's like they smashed into a wall.
Mm-hmm. They just
And
stop.
right. And Mongo is a small velociraptor, and he's consistently biting her on the nose. How does he bite her on the nose without getting like her whole face?
Sideways.
But it's still flush with the rest of her face.
Well, maybe it's just on her face in general, and the extra healing of the dungeon kind of
Mm,
fixes it after a minute.
okay.
I
Okay.
mean, it's not on the snout because she doesn't really have a snout.
Mm-mm.
Would we say that cats have a snout? Yeah, right? Because that's the
Like a
forward part
muzzle,
of the
like a
face that comes down like a muzzle.
like I don't know. I don't know that much about cat anatomy. I just had a hard time picturing the velociraptor being able to cleanly get its jaws or teeth around a nose on a flat face.
Yeah. So they do have a snout. Well, it's typically short compared to other mammals like dogs. The
Okay.
area of the snout, including the nose, is known as the rhinardium. Right? Rhinardium? I'm just going to
Rhine,
cut
like
that
nose.
part. Yes, rhinarium. This is why I don't do research live. Cats do have a snout, even though hers would be quite short.
All right. So that just shows he's extra coordinated, and can have a rather delicate touch if he manages to bite of all cats on the nose to bite Donut on the nose. So good on Mongo.
Um, I just had a short one where when Carl is having his small tantrum at Zev, Carl says he'll do whatever to not piss off Zev and have her shoot a lightning bolt up his ass. Um, which I caught that like a couple read throughs ago, but it didn't click until this read through that that's a direct reference to when the goblin shamankas were trying to get the goblins to build the motorcycle for Carl and Donut. Um, the shamankas were turned by the charisma, but the regular goblins weren't. So they wouldn't get to work, and then one of the shamankas literally shot one of them in the ass with a blue lightning bolt.
I didn't catch that.
And that's when he gets to work. So that's what he's talking about. Like, yes, all right, you're the shamanka, you're in charge, but fuck, lady. Like,
So it's legit.
so other great big heavy one, fascism and incompetence. So there's a history podcast by a guy named Dan Carlin, and he has this whole thing about who would win in a fight, the World War One Germany army or the World War Two German army, and his answer is always hands down World War One, and it comes down to leadership, because to be a high-ranking officer in World War One, you had to first and foremost be good at your job, and like the Kaiser got automatic, but other than that, pretty much you had to be good at your job. So conversely, to achieve high rank at the World War II German army, it was much more important that you toe the line and support whatever batshit insane dogma the party had used to consolidate power. Because in a fascist system, it's not enough to be good at your job. It's much more important that you're loyal to the leader and a true believer in whatever psychotic nonsense that they've used to drum up support. And in fascism, everything is black or white. And so you have to be willing to denounce literally everything that's considered bad and promote literally everything that's considered good. Even if the things that are considered bad are things like washing your hands. So things that are just objectively good, but for some reason the party has decided is bad and therefore you must treat as bad. So it's not just that like unqualified people end up in positions of power, it's that anti-qualified people who refuse to understand the basics of what's needed to do their job and live in reality end up in positions of power, like in spite of the good people being in that job.
Hmm.
So it's like if you had a doctor who is only allowed to practice medicine if they devoutly believe in spontaneous generation and reject germ theory. Like vaccines are obviously and very provably good, but the current head of Health and Human Services disagrees with reality. And that's partially why he has that job. Not because he knows
Hmm.
anything about vaccines or medicine or health or public safety, but because he's willing to toe the insane line that no other medical professional would be willing to.
He's not a medical professional.
Oh, yeah, no, not no other medical professional, no medical professional. Sorry, wrong
Got
word.
it.
I mean, yeah, that's how you get stuff like, you know, I saw a new meme this morning. We're still laughing. In April of 2025, we're laughing at that one reporter getting group text with pending war plans because the people who are in charge are so anti-qualified that they reject the basic tenets of like secure comms to conduct warfare and like you should have security clearances and, threat assessments because their whole point is that like that's a bad thing. That's what the bad people do. That's the deep state. And so they can't be like, okay, yes, that's the deep state, but also it serves an important function. They have to go, no, it will never be done. And then you get absolutely useless OPSEC. um, so the Kutin are at the point where people are required to wear badges showing if they're a member of the party or not. Um, and also once it gets to the point where you just call it the party, you're you're fucked.
Because there's only one.
Because there's just the one. Um, so when you introduce the badges, you are just straight up saying the person who wears this badge is more important than someone who doesn't.
Hmm.
Eventually, if not outright, you're saying the person who's wearing this badge is a person, and someone who isn't. So that also means that anybody who has the badge has privilege and power. And if you don't have the badge, you don't.
Hmm.
And that's very, very bad in any kind of system with any kind of complication or hierarchy because the the main players in a fascistic system are so inept that their authority has to be derived from state sanctioned violence rather than actual aptitude. And it doesn't matter how pants on head stupid the guy is. If he has a badge on his lapel, you know that he has power despite that stupid, and in a lot of cases, because it. So Mordecai talks about how the Bloom only had a small amount of power when he signed up, and
Hmm.
that they've successfully consolidated power to the point where they're now just called, like we said, just the party. Um, and fascism is really good at consolidating power by abusing existing systems until they're so broken that they don't matter. Fascism can change course really hard and demand behavioral and moral challenges in a population really, really fast because they're willing to enforce madness with violence. And part of how you do that is purging people. Anybody from a position of power who doesn't toe the line goes away. Um, but again, it's the insane rhetoric, and it's directing resources to insane things instead of sane things. So resources are taken away from anyone or anything that doesn't serve the party directly. It's compared to the way that like a growing tumor will take more and more energy from the cells around it, and it prevents necessary bodily functions from functioning in terms of in favor of growing the tumor. Um, they were still sending trains full of undesirables as the Allies were invading Nazi Berlin. Like you're throwing what little resources you have at the tumor of this insane ideology rather than using them to like sustain or defend your own capital city. So Zev's boss is a party member and she isn't, which means that if she fucks up, her entire family will be killed.
Hmm.
And that's not a way to run anything. Because every once in a while, the lowliest member of a hierarchy might have to go up against the wishes of a superior in order to do their job properly. And when you can't tell your boss the truth without it maybe killing you, you're never going to go against their wishes, and you're never going to put your job or the project ahead of your own safety. If you're the chick in the organization who pumps gas, and your boss rocks up in a diesel truck and demands that you put unleaded in it, or you're going to die, you're just going to do that. Like, I'm not going to risk my life saying, no, you can't put unleaded in this. This is a diesel truck. It will break it. And then he's just going to end up with a destroyed engine and a useless pile of scrap in the shape of a truck. Uh, and then the really fun part is that in a system like that, even if you're the chick who pumped the gas and were told directly to pump the gas, you might still be held accountable and get killed anyway. So systems just can't run with this level of insane fascism and inequity where literally you can't even say no to someone who sometimes has to be said no to. Um, yeah, by the time you're wearing little Trump badges, I'm sorry, Bloom badges, uh, it's really, really not good. So, yeah, that destroyed engine in the truck is what Borant is doing to the crawl, with just incompetence and malice, because their leader is probably pants on head stupid when it comes to anything other than violence and consolidating power.
What are some examples of like how do we see this in action? I know that they call out in the book that they were censured for the brindle grubs being too many and the toilet malfunctions. Where are some other places that we see this affecting the crawl?
Um, well, the crawl itself is run on a shoestring budget. They're not throwing any money at it because they don't have any money because they've run their entire government and like economy as a species into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that has coincided directly with the rise of the Bloom controlling the entire Kuwaitan system. We have the workers being killed in the dungeon who are supposed to otherwise be safe.
Like the 12
Uh,
admins that were
yeah,
killed.
but a bunch of people just randomly killed by the dungeon. We got the person peeing on the wall who didn't think that that applied to like everybody. And if that was the case, why didn't they like film that too? Uh, Mordecai said that they're trying to, speed run this crawl so that they can get the money that they need to stave off a foreclosure. Um, but like it's there are not a lot of super open examples of this, but what we do get is the little hints and the picture being painted behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes
Mm-hmm.
of that's just how these systems work. And that's what's happening to Zev. That's why Mukta is there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit more
Mordecai
of
even
this.
says, like, I've never seen this on the second floor. So you just know that things are not running as they would typically or as they should. Um,
Mhm.
at this early stage, things are not right. Things are not quite right.
And this is the crawl. This is like the biggest economic powerhouse in the galaxy is the crawl. This is
Mm-hmm.
hugely important. This makes untold swaths of money, and it's being done really, really poorly by by the expertise of just about everybody we talk to who's been involved in this for a long time. It's just not being done well,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yep.
And I can't believe that a violent, totalitarian, fascistic government running this is helping.
No, no, I would say definitely not.
Yeah, yeah. So, Zev goes to her boss and says, hey, this Carl guy sure has a temper. It's going to be an issue if we try to put him on to shows like this or this or this. And if that's not what that guy wants to hear, she's dead, her family's dead. Rather than, ooh, yeah, okay, I could see that being an issue. We should do something about that. Normally you wouldn't come to me with these problems, but I can see that this is a thing you should have come to me with. Thank you. So it's bad management. And it reminds me so much of what is happening to what is left of our country now. Like the whole the whole Doge thing of like, we found people who are 122 collecting Social Security. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just don't know how that coding language works, and you don't know what the systems are. You don't you don't reduce spending and improve efficiency by just cutting entire systems out. You don't save the American people money by removing all legislation that regulates anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of that regulation is to keep us from losing money to like predatory practices and fake businesses. And, truth in advertising has to be a thing.
Well,
And
I
it's
mean,
not actually
or
fixing things, it's just tearing them down so that they can't affect your personal fortune as a psychopath with more money than God.
truth in advertising should be a thing, or you could just go on the basis of sort of making a discovery, jumping to a wild conclusion, and then announcing it publicly before you verify the truth and scope of that actual discovery.
Hmm.
That's more fun.
Hmm.
Makes for much more
And
exciting press conferences.
when a judge stops something that you want it to happen, you just tweet out a picture and the full address of that judge's daughter. There you go. That's just the same thing. It's using force. It's stopping that judge from being able to do his job, which exists for a reason. But instead, no, we're just going to use stochastic terrorism and force. Okay, won't someone rid me of this troublesome priest? So that's a thing that's lived in my head for free for a couple years at this point. So yes, dear listener of the future, know that America was never actually all that great, but at least before the purges of 2016 and 2025, it was a somewhat functioning state, like roads and stuff. So,
Which all
yeah.
ties into Dungeon Crawler Carl.
All right, well, let's wrap up with our discussion questions then. Jess, what are our discussion questions? What did we have before? What do we have now?
Our discussion questions are a chance for you, the listeners, to discuss with us. So you can email us your answer or leave a YouTube comment. Our favorite answers will be read on the air during the next show. So last week's question was, is Odette's show a watch live or a watch later, and why? And our favorite response came from listener Abby Fulmer with watch live, of course, because of spoilers, sweetie. So this week's question is, what creature would you want with you as your pet in the dungeon? What creature would you want with you as your pet in the dungeon? I thought I would want some kind of very compact dragon. Like, I want them to be a form of transportation with the added benefit of having firepower, but I also need to be able to parallel park it so it can't be full size.
That's solid. That's good. That's
What
good.
about you, Else?
I don't know if I can beat that. Like, I would definitely want something that could fly. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
huge. If you just have the capacity to fly, like, um, teleportation, very handy. But if you can fly, you can get around it.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, you don't get flying until very late in an MMO because otherwise it would prevent, there's walls you can't cross as a regular player who can't fly. And if you can just go around those, you don't have to deal with that big fight. So yeah, I would definitely also a dragon, or maybe just uh, like the arcane eye in World of Warcraft is the thing I'm jumping to first, but it's just like a ball of light, not like a void. Okay, kind of like an Alien on Voyager. It's a ball of light, but it can shoot things and it can't really be hurt. It's like it's just a mobile turret, is what I'm describing.
Hmm.
I don't know.
So
I
it
should
gives
have
you
thought about
some
this more beforehand.
so it gives you some defensive capabilities too.
Yeah.
That's not a bad
So,
thing.
Yeah,
Flying defense, that could definitely help you out.
absolutely. Well, that'll wrap it up for this episode. Please send us your answers. What creature would you want as your pet in the dungeon? Answers to newachievementpod@gmail.com and the various social medias, which I have totally made and will totally actually post here in the edit. I'm good at my job. Well, next episode is going to be Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 2, Carl's Doomsday Scenario, chapters 1 through 12. It's finally the next book. So if
Yay!
So if you like the show so far, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, please. Like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us on Spotify, and email us your comments, questions, corrections, or just say nice things to us at newachievementpod@gmail.com. And be sure to send us in those answers. What pet would you want in the dungeon? So until next time, be sure to get out there and kill, kill, kill. You twitch harder every time I do it.
I hate it. I hate how you do that. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to sleep next to you.